For whatever reason, if you discover that you're autistic later in life, aka late diagnosed autism, you don't necessarily have to be formally diagnosed. But if this is you, there is a fair to good chance you're going to start losing friends. It's not a bad thing, I'll explain. If you don't lose friends, at the very least, you are going to lose some acquaintances. What the hell am I talking about? Why are you going to start losing friends just because you're autistic all of a sudden? Well, this is the thing. From other people's perspective, sometimes it will appear as if you're becoming more autistic before their very eyes. And this is because we tend to mask, and that's how we have gone our whole life undiagnosed. Now, fortunately for me, I'm not in the camp. I've fortunately to have not lost friends over it, because somehow I managed to make friends with people who I could be my true self around. I didn't have to mask around them. But I have lost acquaintances, or I've found that I really don't get along with people that I used to get along with. Now, I will preface this by saying this is not just my subjective experience here. This is what I've pieced together from talking to other autistic people and watching content from other autistic people. And this seems to be the general consensus, is that we've been masking so hard our whole life. You get diagnosed and then you start to wonder, what were the things that, what is the masking and how do I stop? And a lot of us, I know for myself, we think, oh, well, I'll just stop doing that then. Well, you know, if it's a lifelong habit, it's not so simple, but it's not impossible either. It's just a process of going through and realizing when you're masking, when you're not being true to yourself, and when you're doing things to suit other people. I've attributed this to people pleasing. So I've found myself and a lot of other people who are autistic, their masking is a lot to do with people pleasing. And they're just, you know, you think about it, in any situation you're in, every time you think, oh, would I normally not speak up and say something here? Or if someone says something problematic, do you not challenge them? And there'll be a process of, you know, not eliminate, what's the word? It's a learning process. What I've noticed is that with my closer friends, must have been something I've always done. I haven't masked as much, or they've encouraged me not to mask. That's just me. Just that my kind of internalized style of autism, or the internalized presentation. This is for another video. But going back to the masking. So if you find yourself in certain situations with friends or acquaintances that you're not speaking up, but you've got the thoughts in your head and you go, oh, I'm not cool with what they just said, or they ask you something and, you know, previously you're expected to respond a certain way, but now you think, do I have to respond that way? Do I have to be polite and agree with them? Or can I say, oh, no? And I've found that this comes down to boundaries, that a lot of us in the masking, we're taught by other people that we don't have a right to what we want to do. We don't have any rights according to them. They try to teach you to do things our way, agree with whatever we say, and even if it means we tread on your rights, that's okay, right? And so this is what I found that you have to do, is you have to start saying no to people. And I realize I'm saying that like it's just easy, just say no, you'll be fine. No, I will accept that that is really difficult. I found it really difficult just to say no when people ask you to do something or to go along with something. And it's really hard because those people have always expected you to say yes to these things. And then now all of a sudden you're saying no. And not only you think that, oh, well, that should be the end of it, but they don't accept that. They push back because they're used to you saying yes. They're used to getting their own way. And let me just say, you've got to go ahead and just say no. You're going to have to go through this difficult process. You won't die, but you might lose friends over it. You might stop seeing eye to eye with certain family members that are used to getting their own way. And part of this, you might be scared, oh, people won't like me. Well, unfortunately, this is the whole problem with masking, is they don't like you anyway. They like a version of you that you made up for their convenience. It isn't you. That's why it's not a bad thing. If you start losing friends, acquaintances, stop hanging out with the same family members, because that they only like a version. It's not really you anyway. And more importantly, now you can be yourself. And I will say it, where a lot of us, by their standards, we are weird. I don't think we're weird. I think we're interesting, because when I come across people that neurotypical people, the general public, might call weird, I find them interesting. I think I'd rather hang out with someone who's weird than someone who's boring. It's just me. So don't be afraid to be yourself, literally. And it is scary. I will admit it's scary. But, Adam Savage, famous from the Mythbusters, he's clearly neurodiverse. And he's gone on the record and said, let your freak flag fly. Right, and there's a lot in that, isn't there? Be yourself, be your weird self. Really, be your weird self. And it will be uncomfortable, and you will have to deal with certain people will criticize you for being weird and all this stuff. Great. That's the goal. That's what you want, because you realize they are not your people. That's what that means. When someone starts saying to you, oh, you're weird, which I have had in my life. And I look back now and think, oh yeah, they were just not my kind of person. I guess in my teens, when I would drink alcohol, which I don't anymore, I would do things that were weird, and the friends I had back in school would find it funny or amusing. And I guess I kind of played on that. I'm not friends with any of them anymore, weirdly enough, despite what I'm saying. Anyway, I don't want to go on and on about this, but so that's it. If you are late diagnosed autistic, you have quite likely, in fact, I pretty much guarantee, you've been masking the whole time. You're pretending to be somebody that you're not for the benefit of other people. That's the only reason that you've been doing it. It's not because you like it. It's tiring. It's not fun to do. And you will have to embrace that there's certain people in your life who are not going to like it it's a process. You've got to go through and stop doing this thing and stop doing that thing. You might go too far with it's a process. You've got to go through this process. And unfortunately, a lot of people say once you drop the mask, it's not a one-step process. You can't put it back on. That's the key. But you will be better off, because you will form more genuine friendships or bonds with people. People will start liking you for who you are after you go through the difficult process of demasking. There you have it. Hope that helps. If you've got any questions about masking or the being late diagnosed or any of that stuff, please pop it in the comments below. Have a good day.